Let's begin. All right, starting with the feet together and the hands on the head. Beginning with nice slow circles to get warmed up. Let the weight roll from foot to foot. Let the body relax. You know the hips are being pulled all the way around by a rope. Very nice, changing directions. Again, starting out slow. The body relax into the motion. As your balance comes online and the move feels more secure, you can add a little more speed to it. And two more. Very good. Widening the stance a bit. Next up, body fanning. Hips roll back, the body fans forward. Hips roll up, body pulls back up. Make that back straight. Umbilicus drawn towards the spine. If you want more of a challenge, go ahead and bring the hands to the center of the chest. More of a challenge still is bring the hands behind the ears. Try to keep the weight balanced between the toes and the heels, not leaning too far forward or back. And two more. Good. Bringing the stance in just a little bit. Same basic hip movement as before. Sinking, raise, and draw back. Sink, pulling the hips through and back. Continue. Very good. Keeping the umbilicus drawn towards the spine. Five more. Last one. Widening the stance a bit. Body parallel to the ground, umbilicus drawing towards the spine. Turning nice and slow, looking behind your heel. Body flat across. Turning low. You can have a slight bend to your knees. And you want that weight distributed right in the middle, so not too far forward or back. And now 10 more with that swoop, trying to paint the ground at the top of your head. Two more. The last one. Okay, bring that stance back up. Feet about shoulder width. Again, big hip circles. As the body rolls back, chest rolls through. Trying to bring the weight all the way around the feet. Two more. Last one. And change directions. Two more. Very nice. Shake that out for a moment. Restart our timer. Okay, bringing the focus to that right leg. We're got external rotations. Hip rolls in, round and back. Take your time for the first few, just finding that shape. When you're comfortable, start grabbing with the feet, drawing the belly to the spine, raising the head neck. Changing to the left leg. Keep going. Here those first few circles. Find the shape. Try and make that shape smooth. When you get comfortable, start grabbing with the feet, drawing the belly, and raising the head neck. And from here into those figure eights, big arcing circles, rounding side to side. Once circle is good again, grabbing with the feet, drawing the belly, and raising that head neck. and relaxing back to the middle. Let the weight settle for a second. And once again, focusing on that right leg, this time internal rotation. Those first few circles go nice and slow. Make sure you're describing a complete shape. From there, adding in that foot grab, belly draw, and raising through the head neck. Making sure the circle is complete, especially as it rounds to in. And then for that next round to in, we're going to switch to the other side. So now going into the left-sided rotations. Again, adding that foot grab, belly draw, and neck lift as you're ready. Make sure the whole circle is complete, especially as we draw back, around, and in. And then attaching to the right leg as we go into an internally rotating figure eight. Using that foot grab to keep the leg stable and feel those adductor, those inner thigh muscles engage. Using the belly draw, so that foot movement can draw through the middle, edge the belly, be accessible to the chest, raising the head and neck so all that power can draw up and out and not get trapped around the heart. Relaxing back to the middle. Feeling as we draw up, bring the feet together. And relax. We're going to spend a few minutes now working on how we can lift the foot and step to the side in the most Tai Chi and connected way we can manage, okay? So we're going to start allowing the feet again to come to even. Relaxing the weight down, letting your whole body sink heavy. Feet are relaxed, the hips are heavy, the belly is relaxed, everything is relaxed and dropping into the ground. From here, we're going to establish the scaffolding we can move from. So again, we're going to start by drawing very gently with the feet. And it's not a strong grab, it's just enough grab that you can feel the muscles around the lower leg engage to support. So the feet are soft, everything in the front of the shin is soft too. The feet grab just a little, you can feel those muscles come online. That's about the level of intensity we want here. And that foot grab. Before we engage the stomach, pay attention to the feeling in the belly, the feeling in the hips, and the feeling of the upper leg, in particular, the medial aspect, the inside of that upper leg. And then gently engaging the belly. And here, I'll tighten the shirt so you can see. See there's a little bit of shelf going towards my back, my low back. As I draw the belly button in, that shelf isn't eliminated, it just stacks on top of my hips. So my hips are no longer behind my knees. My body's dropping plumb line down towards my feet. So I'm not tucking my tailbone in and under, I'm just creating a balanced structure on my hips. And as you draw that belly and hip into place, you may feel in the adductor, those inner thigh muscles begin to engage. From there, the clavicles, the long bones up top, knit together just a little, causing the scapula, the flat bones in your back, to splay just a bit. Allow the breath to relax, that new space in the chest. Feel the weight of your shoulders hanging. And finally, as the shoulders hang and are heavy, weighing down, the head neck lifts from the back of the neck very slightly towards the ceiling. We're now ready to move. So the first thing we're going to do is select the leg that we're going to lift. And it's going to be my left leg. Not near me, that's totally fine. Get that leg free, I want to bring the weight across to my right leg. But if I shift my hips like this, I've broken all those nice structures, and now I'm stuck lifting from my knee, and my whole body is absent from that movement. Rather than that, I want to fill this leg to make it a stronger base. So as I rise the leg up, I'm not collapsing the stable side. And that's why I pour the weight up and over. And I describe it as up and over and not shift, because that feeling of lift, that creates the suspension that carries you to the other side, as opposed to falling and collapsing across the way. So again, lifting up and over, feeling that weight pour in that right stable. Once that right leg becomes weighted, make sure those postural elements we kind of added in sequentially are still there, right? The foot grab is still present, belly draw, clavicle knit, head neck raised, weight sinking down from the shoulders. Next, I need to get this leg off the ground. And there are two main ways I can raise the leg. The first is raising from the knee. The second is raising from the hip, right? And it really just comes down to what joint we're initiating from, whether we're starting the movement. If we all try initiating from the knee, you just bend your knee and the leg raises, right? It's like walking down the street. We've all done that billions and billions of times. Raising from the hip is a little more complex because we need to create a space and a draw such that the hip can be raised by the musculature above it. When we raise from the knee, we got the quadriceps, great big muscles to help raise the leg up, right? It's really easy to isolate that area. Raising from the hip requires a far more complex network of movement to create that same action. And so don't be hasty with the next bit. Take your time. Feel that belly drop. Feel it stable. Imagine that pull across body from the hip to the shoulder. Your weight still pouring into that rooted foot, that right foot. With that belly engaged, drawing to the shoulder, feel the hip draw up like a marionette string. And down. And up. And down. Try to feel the belly engagement shift as the leg raises and sinks. If you can't feel the belly engage, the first thing I look at is your pelvis, right? If you have that big shelf in the hips, it's really hard to feel much happening in here. But if we can draw those hips into balance over that bowl of our waist as we draw up, it becomes much easier to feel that cross-body draw as we raise that foot up and down. So in your own time, just isolating that one foot, take a few steps, lifting up, and just settling back in place. And when you settle, run through a spot check. Make sure feet, belly, clavicles, neck, everything is back in alignment. Then inhale, and on the exhale, raising the leg. Drawing to sink. And play with that for a moment while I check out everybody's movements. Very nice, Craig and Pam. Feel the shoulders and hands weigh heavy, both of you. There you go. Try to eliminate as much tension in the body as you can. Feel that weight pour. The hands are heavy, but not tense. The only tension you want to be feeling is that isolation of drawing just enough to raise that leg through the middle and then relax it back down the same way. And April. Good, April. The lift is looking smooth. The shift is looking great. Now that you've got that initial raise up, start paying attention to how different heights of raise affect this musculature differently. If I'm raising to below 90 degrees, right, below parallel with the ground, it's a very different belly feel than if I raise to 90 or even a little bit above 90. And so kind of mess around with how those different heights change the body feel and how best engage your belly to maintain that hold. And Laura. Very nice, Laura. Heavy, then suspend, then with the breath. Very good. Very slight lifts and down. A small lift is looking great, Laura. From here, just like with April, start playing with how drawing to different heights engages different parts of these structures. And again, go level to level to level. Don't rush through. Try to make a study of how each height is different. I like the hand and foot connection, Kara. Rachel, I think your skirt is louder than my pants. Damn it. Yep. Came prepared. All right, give me one more try, Rachel. Very nice, very nice. And just like I was telling April and Laura, is exactly, as you lift to different heights, feel where the engagement is. As you settle the foot back down for all of you, let things come back to neutral for just a second. Get that baseline and then re-engage. If there's kind of a half engagement left over, you're gonna miss that first little bit of pull, which is so important to the initiation of a step. So again, things settle, pour, and then lift, settle, pour, and lift. We want to make that pour to lift an automatic response to weight shift and leg lifting. And so the more we run through it, the easier that transition becomes, unless it becomes a thought process. It's kind of an automatic movement set. Good. With the weight back to even, we're not going to use long this, and I want you to get both sides a little bit. We're going to switch legs. Okay, so once again, with the feet to even, the weight is just heavy, relaxed. You swing the arms a little, rock back and forth if you like. A couple big, heavy breaths. It all kind of helps to shake it out. From there, as you're ready, we initiate our basic postural sequence, right? There's like a slight grab of the feet. That feels good. Belly draw, chest knitting, the scapula splaying, head, neck raising. And then from there, take another second to make sure that beyond those engagements, everything else is as heavy and relaxed as we can make it. We want that middle body, that axial skeleton, to be strong and supportive. The peripheral body just kind of hangs as ready to be moved by that center. From here, once again, the weight doesn't shift. It raises up and over and pours into the now heavy leg. Take a second to make sure all those postural qualities are still engaged. And then once you're there, bring your focus to your hip. And the hardest part for this, that first little bit of movement, at least always was for me, right? There's a temptation to swing the knee and then catch up with everything else. Don't give in to that temptation. Rather, feel that pull across. Feel that full weight of your leg, and your leg is heavy, right? There's a weight here. It's concerning at first. Take your time. Feel that leg dislodge from the ground just a little. Feel all those lower abdominal muscles that you need to do that action. And then feel the abs work as you draw across. The leg raises and settles. Weight shift to center momentarily. Pours back over. Again, take your time, that first little bit of raise. Find that bit of lift as the hip draws up. And then settles the full weight of your leg. A couple more of those, and then again at your own pace, just like on the other side. Experiment with different heights, different paces of lifting. All right, and just give this a go for just a minute or two. There's my water. Good. Some of you are listing a little as you step. That is normal. That happens as we work on this. Don't worry about it. Instead, try to feel that support leg as heavy. The foot's grabbing, but there's also a weight traveling through the foot. So I'm not suspended up on my toes and on my heel, right? I'm not hyper exaggerating my arch to make a fickle base. Rather, I'm treating that arch like a suction cup. It's grabbing the ground that little bit, holding the ground, not creating a weird point of rotation on it, right? So again, if I grab too tight, I get that kind of weird, balance wave effect. If I grab just a little, all the muscles in the foot that aren't being used for that grab can relax and spread. And so now there's that hold, which helps the lower leg to engage in, right? And there's that spread that helps that weight distribution. So I can more easily use that lateral aspect of the foot to create essentially one half of an arch as I raise this leg up. The force vector isn't a straight diagonal there. The force vector, much like the weight pour, is a parabolic arc up and over into that down leg. Now, a little bit of geometry made a huge difference in my practice, right? I thought it was just kind of a shift straight in. Everything kind of bladed down, the balance got a little wonky. If you imagine that lift as a constant present entity in the movement, you always have that half of an arch to support you as you raise rather, and settle that leg. Try a few more times. Very nice, Rachel. Do you see how the muscles are kind of rotating through, which is most active? Yeah, very good. Good shift, Laura. Very nice raise. Very good adjustments in your core. How's that feeling?
Oh, so good.
Good. It's looking beautiful. Very, very nice movement. Excellent. I like how you came back to neutral. Good shift. There's the belly engagement. Yeah, you're doing great. And everyone does when they start raising higher. So it's not a problem, right? But it's absolutely what occurs. And so I'll turn, actually, I'll go straight ahead for this. As I begin to raise higher, I also raise slower. I have a feeling here. I may not know exactly where it all attaches to, but I know I have that feeling. And so as I raise up, I want to maintain that feeling. If I raise too fast, that feeling goes away, and now there's this empty space. I'm not sure what's going on, right? But if I gradually draw up, maintain that belly feel, I begin to create a study of everything supporting that belly feel. The longer I hold this leg up, much like in our stance in single leg in Bagua, the longer I hold up, the more the big muscles fatigue, and the better I can examine everything else that's happening in that region. And so it really is just a matter of play and experimentation, right? Find that one little bit of hold. Once that's good, then try to find everything else used to engage it. Then go to long duration holds, and everything will kind of gradually build together from there. Is that a good place to start?
Yeah, that's helpful. Going slower is a good idea. And I think I must have been doing this right in Bagua class, because the last time we did stance in single leg, the next day my muscles were sore in exactly that region.
Awesome. And that's how the study goes. And so after that, you don't want to do as much the next day. But the day after, that's a really good time to do your leg step, your very gentle leg lifting. Because now all that's fatigued out enough that you can really get an idea of what's moving where. And that's so hard to feel when you're fresh. And so
can I check something out, Joey?
Please, please.
I just want to check out if what I'm feeling seems. So when I exhale and I'm pouring weight into that leg, there's almost, as I pour, turning, it's almost like the leg actually can just almost lift itself. I mean, the hip is lifting, as you said, right. Not the leg, but it's almost like it's so easy. It's actually the pouring and the out breath that's doing it.
Yep. And you just touched on a very fundamental Tai Chi principle, and that is that you have to push down to lift up, right? You have to have the opposite movement in place and stable to create the movement that you're after. And that's one of the hardest principles to play with, in the myriad of Tai Chi motions, because we get into some fairly complex movements. And so just isolating what the agonist movement is can be quite hard. But in situations like this where it's repetitive, it's not a simple movement, but aesthetically it's not very difficult to comprehend, right? This is a really nice thing to play with. That lift to sink, that push down creates this lightness.
And then from that press, I can feel this whole region changing as I press down and raise up. And that's the study of it.
Yeah, you're absolutely on a good point there, Laura.
You close the blind a little bit, so stop blinding all of you with the glare. That's happier. Okay, so now, almost happier. I'll go here. With the weight coming to the middle, we're just a couple steps side to side and then move on to the next. Pouring from that left hip into the right. Our foot grab is present, our belly draw is engaged, our chest is knitted, our head neck is raising. We lift up and over that arc, pouring down to the other side as the light foot raises up, as the heavy foot presses down. Now we're just straight lifting up. Now we need to step to the side, right? And once again, if I just reach to the side, everything falls apart. I want to make sure the step out is as controlled and focused as the raise up. And so from that lift, there's a slight sink in my pressing leg as I step out and let the weight shift to the middle. We're going to break down the shift a lot more in a few minutes, but right now it's a lateral glide. From here, the weight pours up and over into that left leg. As you do, make sure that you're not collapsing in any way as you pour that weight. It's the same feeling, grabbing with the feet, pouring up and over, pressing into that heavy foot as you raise the leg that's coming across. As you draw that leg up, maintain that press, pull from the hip. There's a slight inward crescent movement with the knee that feels very distinct through the abs as we settle the foot down and briefly return to neutral. In our neutral, make sure the foot grab, belly draw, chest knitting, and head neck are all where we want them as we draw the weight up and over into our left leg, raising the right foot, sinking that left leg just a little as we step out to the side, pulling the weight to the middle in our shift. The weight pours up and over to the right. But again, make sure your hip's not getting away. This is an exaggeration, right? But I want to make sure that I have that belly engagement. My pelvis is still in a line as I shift. Now I might feel a very slight stretch in that inguinal groove, right? As I push down with that right leg. Raising from that quad, from that hip, the knee travels up in that very slight inward arc. Feet come together and press. So you do two more of these, once left and once right. The weight draws up and over, shifting into the right leg. Left foot draws up from the hip. Right leg sinks slightly as we step out and shift. From that neutral, the weight pours up and over to that left leg, creating that very slight engagement and stretch to the left, through the right quad, right through here. Once again, there's that pressing down as that right leg arcs up, the knee travels in that very slight inward side crescent. The feet come together, the weight settles to neutral. Last one of these. The weight pours into the left foot, freeing the right foot, pressing down with the left as the right raises. Stepping out to the side as that left foot sinks. Shift to the middle. The weight pours up and over into that right leg. Feel that pull in that left hip as it draws cross body, pulling that knee up, arcing as we step feet together. Breathing in, relaxing that breath out. Shake it out for a second, get water if you need it. If you have any questions, let me know. Oh, and Craig, if you have one available, grab your stick. Excellent. So this is my lovely koa wood Taiji ruler that Craig made for me. Thank you, Craig. Craig is purveyor of all things awesome and wooden for the studio.
What's like the size that's supposed to be? Because I just happen to have this stick in the corner.
My elbows are touching. My hands are pretty much straight ahead, so it's body size dependent. And again, you don't need to have a stick to do what we're doing class today. I was going to have one to demonstrate. If you have access to, it doesn't need to be a nice koa wood stick like mine, although they are very nice. But a sawed-off piece of broom handle works quite well too. And you can make one of those in the time between classes. For today, we're just going to use for some very basic movements. And if you don't have a stick, and I'll demonstrate, of course, in both ways, you can just have the hands to parallel and get the exact same effect for today, okay? So don't worry, I'm not going to teach a class that you all can't take.
Is it the forearm to the finger?
I think there's two sizes for the back of the forearm, the elbow to the finger.
Yep. I mean, it's roughly a cubit.
So mine's a little short, but about that.
Yeah, it's about, a biblical cubit, right? From the tip of the fingers to that crease in the elbow. So if you're building any arcs later, we'll have our sticks ready. All right. What we're going to work with here is a basic shifting of weight. Like I mentioned in the last little part of class, right? As we step out to the side, it's not a throwing of the hips, it's a shift. And that shift is very particular in Tai Chi. This comes from Chun Tai Chi, as lots of Tai Chi, of course, does, it being the progenitor of Tai Chi. But the idea is I'm not just pulling the weight forward and back, the weight is sinking into the ground, pulling under the ground, raising up, drawing in, sinking, pulling the weight forward, raising the weight up, and pressing back down. So the forward shift is flat, arcing up and over, sinking in, about to the level of the hips, drawing forward, raising up and in. The foot position, I'm so sorry about that glare. Let me get one more adjustment to the window. The sun is at just the wrong angle all of a sudden. All right, so my forward foot is face towards the screen. My back foot is at a 45-degree angle. And if I negate the stick for a second, the movement is just shifting forward, shifting down, forward, lift, and back. Down, forward, lift, and back. It's not a very big amplitude movement. It's not so deep that I'm putting pressure on my knees, though I will feel my quads engage as I drop down. And as I sink, again, belly draws to spine, head, neck raises, feet grab slightly. From that sink, I pull the weight forward with my front foot, shifting that weight forward in that sunk position, raising back up as I cycle the movement in, sinking back down, forward, raise, draw into the chest, sink, pull forward, raise, draw into the chest, and sink. Playing with this nice and slow. Sink, draw. I turn sideways. Notice how my belly is engaged the whole time through, right? My hips aren't shifting back. I'm pulling my waist forward, drawing my waist back. Pulling the waist forward, raising, drawing the waist back, sinking. In the beginning, the coordination of those big muscle groups will be the predominant focus because it just has to be to create the shapes, right? As you get more comfortable, it becomes that gentle roll of the belly, raising up, drawing through the stomach, pressing through the stomach, reaching through the stomach. Again, turning that belly as the ruler turns. 2 more going forward. Last one rolling forward. And now drawing back. Lifting, reaching, drawing back. Almost like you're sawing through a great big log as you draw back. Drawing back, feel the belly roll and carry you through. Up and over, extend through, shift that weight, drawing back. And continue for a moment. Excellent, Rachel. Make sure the belly is still engaged as you raise up to over. Everything else is looking quite nice. Okay, shifting legs. The opposite foot forward again. That front foot is pointing towards the screen. The back foot is at a 45-degree. Scoop, lift, draw. Press, pull the weight through. Lift, arc back. Drawing down the middle. Pulling through. Lifting back. Pressing down the front. And from an acupuncture and kind of Taoist anatomy perspective, I guess the best way of calling it, there are 8 major acuvessel meridians that we're chiefly concerned with for just deep body movement. The one at the front of the body is called the renmai, the seat of yin, and its major characteristic is heaviness and downward movement. So we draw up, we're drawing and pressing down the renmai, pulling that weight through, pulling and lifting through the belly, and allowing that weight to press down that front vessel, drawing the weight through, lift and draw back. Sinking, pulling, drawing in, sinking, pulling, up and over. Keep playing with this a couple more times. Very nice, Laura. Good, Rachel. Okay, changing directions, right? So that press down, there's now a lift, up and over and through, drawing, lift. Now, even though my back isn't extending back like this, there's a feeling of drawing up the back. Just as the front is the sea of yin, the renmai sinking, the back, the dumai, is the sea of yang, always raising up and over. And so as I draw up, I feel my belly drawing through my paraspinal muscles as I reach through, pulling back, raising through the back, and reach. It's very difficult to feel the back moving like this if there isn't a slight concavity to the chest. My chest is square, it's just my shoulders moving. There's no movement translating through here. If I maintain that concavity, that knit clavicle, that slight vacuity in the inside of my shoulder, right here, all of a sudden, I can feel my paraspinal muscles engage and help to guide and direct my movement. The breath is relaxed and neutral for right now. We'll get into breathing patterns eventually. I just want to keep things nice and simplified. Just work on a base movement for today. One more minute of this. Very nice, playing with that weight shift. Feel that draw through the ground, cascading up and over, pulling the ground, cascading. And relax. So the Taiji ruler is a hugely versatile training tool. You can work with coordination stuff, this sort of thing, ball rolling, all kinds of just sort of movements of shapes to the belly. It's a very, very nifty tool to have. And again, it doesn't need to be a fancy one to be a functional one. As Sonny once said, the first time I met him, he knew a guy in Beijing who had what was conversion rates about $3,000 stick and about $1 worth of skill. It's much better to have, a $1 stick and $3,000 worth of skill. So don't sweat about what you make it out of. Just, again, roughly from fingertips to elbow crease, just play with coordination moving around at the beginning. And if we all get our hands on one of these, I'll start teaching a bit more in class because it's a really fun adjunct tool and a very nifty solo training tool to have. Okay? Any questions so far before we do a few minutes of form?
Was the expensive ruler made out of the fossilized bones of some monk? Why?
It was some sort of sandalwood that he got in a monastery. Is the stories I remember?
Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
And he had it hanging over his door. He never ever used it. Exactly the wrong use for a tool like that. Okay, let's do a run through of the set just so we don't, backslide on that practice a little bit. Again, we're just going to go nice and slow one time through. We'll call class after that. And then, if there are any questions afterwards, let me know. Check my spacing. Okay, perfect. Relax that weight. Gently running through our checklist. Foot grab. Postural alignment through the belly. Clavicles knitting, scapula splaying, head and neck suspending, shoulders sinking. Up and over, the weight shifts into that right foot. As that right foot presses down, just like we practiced before, feel the muscles in the belly pulling, and not a little fatigued, but it'll be easier to feel. As the weight shifts a bit, and we step and allow ourselves to find our balance. And here, take a second, make sure your feet are where you want them. Make sure the angle's good, you're comfortable. Again, there's no points lost for making adjustments. Running through our checklist yet again, that foot engagement, pelvic engagement, chest rounding, and suspension through the neck. As we inhale, the knees raise slightly, the arms raise as well, palms up. When the hands come to parallel, we begin our exhalation, really drawing in that concaving of the chest and concaving of the pelvis in turn. The hands draw up, meeting at yin tong, the point between the eyes, as the fingertips drive down the renmai, that sea of yin, rounding the knees, creating that arch. And from this arch, there's a very slight push out with the little toe side of the foot to create that feeling of suspension as the arms raise, and the exhalation, rounding the chest, drawing the hands in. On the inhalation, the hands and chest pull to each other. On the exhalation, rounding, and it's not just the shoulder round, so my hips round too, as I create that space between the chest and hands. Pulling just a little to the left with the hands and to the right with the hips. We round to the opposite direction, drawing through the belly as that right foot comes in, touching the left. arcing out, round to drill. The hand and foot turn. Roll the ball. As that left hand sinks, it pulls on that left hip, drawing it up, stepping it out to the 45. Roll to drill and press. The left hand and foot turn together. Roll the ball again. As we sink, that pull pulls on that right hip, drawing it up as I step out towards all of you. Round the right, drill the left. The hands pull that right hip in. As I do so, the weight comes to that right hip. As that left hip draws in, steps out, round to drill and press. Again, this time pulling the left foot in, rounding, drawing, stepping, round the right hip, drill into the left. And the last one of these in the line, pulling that right hip in, pulling the weight to the right foot. The left foot is made light as it steps out. Round the left, drill the right. From here, right hand sinks as the left hand raises. Body sinks with that press as we come under into playing the peepaw or an arm break. Roll, draw, step out of the 45 right, round the right leg, drill and press off of the left. Shifting right as that right hand raises, pulling that left foot up to parallel with the ground. The body folds as we sink. Palms come together as we roll through and open. Sinking, raising, turning to step. Take a big step this way, a little more room. Turn, inward rotation 1. Stepping behind as the right hand raises, turn, slice. Turn 2, stepping back as the left hand raises, turn, slice. Externally rotate left hip, right hip, left hip again as we raise up and through. The right leg gently finds the ground. Rolling, step back left, turn, slice. Rolling, step back with the right foot, turn, slice. The left foot takes a slight opening step as we externally rotate right hip, left hip, right hip again as we reach through and raise. The left foot finds the ground. The hands holding the spear, press that ball to the ground. Rolling, pressing the ball to the wall. As I raise, there's a pull on my straight back leg. That pull draws that foot in. My feet come to even, facing away from the camera. As I continue my roll, stepping out with the right foot to press. Pull the weight into that left leg. Feel the arms shift heavy. Last movement just for fun. Step out with the right foot. As you pull the weight over, right hand comes over. As we draw the weight back, left hand falls into place. For the first of 3 lotuses, we'll start playing with those soon because they're fun. All right, that is about the time we have for tonight. Breathing in. Sorry. And relax that weight down. Very nice work, everybody. Are there any questions about tonight's lesson before we take a quick pause between this and Bagua? Very good work. Was the pace too slow?
No, no.
No?
I love that. You changed my life with that stepping stuff.
Sweet.
You did. You changed my whole life
Aw.
with it. That's why I'm still here.
That makes my night. Thank you. You're doing
I
great.
really like it when you break things down like that. So I think the pace was just fine.
Sweet. Yeah, I think I'm going to move Tai Chi more to that pace. I enjoy teaching that way. And if you are all comfortable with that level, with that, speed of progress, I think we can all make, really good foundational improvements at that rate. So let's go after it. Yeah, if there's every day you're, just itching to do deep stance and move quickly, we can talk about that too. But I think we'll stick to this for the time being.
Joey, your explanation of engaging the back is, I've never gotten that from another teacher. It's just one, and that has changed my life.
You guys are the best. Thank you.
And Joey, I think this pace was really good for this online format.
Cool.
There's some things that are harder to learn, I think, when we're looking at the screen, but this was just right.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Again, I've been trying really hard to find the best practices for this because it's so different from what I'm used to. The feedback is really helpful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. I really appreciate the slow pace with the basics and like the subtle getting used to the musculature and the mechanics. So it's good.
Cool. We'll keep it this rate then. Again, thank you all so much for training so hard and for giving me the feedback and support to make those changes. It really, I could not do this without all of you. I'm going to let the computer charge a few minutes and we'll start Bagua in about 10 minutes here, all right? I'll see you in a little bit.
I'm probably going to skip out. I'm like struggling to stay awake.
You get some sleep.
Yeah. All right.